So the Young Turks have a video out talking about the NFL and their latest rules surrounding the anthem and everything going on with that. So let's see what they have to say.
The NFL is hitting pause on its new national anthem protest policy. You'll remember back in May, the NFL announced they would fine teams if players were out on the field during the anthem and did not stand. So here's a statement sent jointly from the NFL and the NFL Players Association. It says in part, no new rules relating to the anthem will be issued or enforced for the next several weeks while these confidential discussions are ongoing. It goes on to say our shared focus will remain on finding a solution to the anthem issue through mutual good faith commitments outside of litigation. Now, both the NFL and the NFL Players Association had announced that they had been working towards a resolution on this policy, but according to ESPN, the policy suspension announcement was pushed up because of a decision made by the Miami Dolphins organization just yesterday. They had followed up with the NFL announcement with their own announcement, kind of an increased punishment, saying that if players protest, they also faced a 4-game suspension. And so that's where we are now.
Yeah, so the Dolphins tell ESPN, or at least sources within the Dolphins, no, we're not gonna really suspend players for 4 weeks. We just have to put the maximum punishment out there because we can then downgrade it later, but it's harder to upgrade. I don't know if that's true, but that's at least the claim they're making.
Right.
Their policy got leaked.
Yes.
That's what happened.
Right.
Yeah, this is a big mistake on the part of the NFL for putting these new rules on hold. You know, these players who are whining like 10-year-olds are not going to change their mind. And at some point, something's going to have to be done about this. So you might as well just get it over with now. Let the players be pissed off. Whatever. What can they really do in the long term? Where else can they go and make the kind of salaries that they make in the NFL, really? Do they have other options that are just as good? No.
And then they were scrambling because they looked terrible. And in fact, it looked so terrible that the NFL called the NFLPA and the NFLPA has essentially bailed the NFL out.
Yeah, so the Players Association doing a good job here, as they should, defending the players. But look, just 2 things about this story that drive me crazy. One is, of course, the owners siding with the bully, Donald Trump, when in the beginning they didn't even agree with him. Even though they're billionaires and they're largely incredibly right-wing, and yes, they might have been annoyed that the players were taking knees, and they're annoyed at anything that might ever cut into their profits, I understand that. But for a brief moment, a lot of them knelt with the players and actually seemed to empathize with other Americans, and that was a lovely moment. And then Trump bullied them.
Yeah, there were a few owners kneeling with the players. You know, it's the politically correct thing to do. It looks good. Oh, I'm acknowledging the injustice, and you know, I'm not one of those bad white people, or I'm not one of those bad, you know, billionaires. I like you guys. And this really doesn't have much at all to do with President Trump. He's just, you know, the president, so we know his opinion on it, but this is not, he's not the driving force behind this. You know, the NFL is a business that's why it exists. It exists to make money. You know, let's say you own a grocery store, and let's say all your employees in the store, you know, have shirts that say, you know, F you, and all they do is go around the store flipping people the bird, cursing people out, threatening people. I'm guessing that's not going to be good for business, right? When you make your customer base, or a large amount of your customer base, your enemy, okay, it's not good for business. And if you look at what happened after this anthem fiasco started, NFL ratings started going down. You're upsetting everyday Americans who the NFL depends on to watch their games, you know, buy the products that endorse them and such. So this is just a business trying to protect itself, trying to make sure its employees don't go out of their way to piss off, you know, the customers.
And they gave in, and it was one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen. Here's a bunch of incredibly powerful men in the country that are almost all billionaires, and they get cowed by Donald Trump. Why? Not just because of personality issues, because Donald Trump did something that was potentially unconstitutional. He challenged their tax breaks, and by the way, I don't think they should get the tax breaks, but that is what he did to punish their freedom of speech. And that's what makes it unconstitutional.
Oh, Shank, what are we gonna do with you? You know, I happen to know for a fact that you know and you think that that is not unconstitutional. That has nothing to do with the Constitution, and you know that. Okay, it's a bad argument, and you're just throwing it out there because maybe a few people, you know, might not give it much thought and just think, oh, well, that sounds right. So, Shank, I know that you and probably the vast majority of people on the left have been and would like to see the IRS target religious organizations that are too political, pastors and whatnot, rabbis endorsing specific candidates, taking policy positions, sending their people out to affect politics. And you have no problem with yanking their tax exemptions. I assume you would support that, right? So you can withhold tax breaks, you can suspend tax breaks for um, organizations that are largely conservative when they express views on politics and candidates and try to affect, political races. But when it comes from the left, you say, well, no, that you can't threaten their tax breaks because that's trying to stifle their free speech. Which one is it, Shank?
And they collapsed and they caved, and then they did this deeply wrong and hurtful policy. Because remember what this is about. The protest is about, please don't shoot unarmed black men. It's not a big ask. It's not, hey, we don't like the troops. It's not, hey, don't go into wars in Iraq or Syria. It has nothing to do with the troops. It's about cops, and it's not saying cops are bad. It's just saying, can you please stop shooting unarmed black men?
Okay, Shank, but it's what the implication is, what it implies by their actions. Okay, what it, you know, amounts to is that they're saying this group of people is a victim and this group of people over here, the police officers, they're the bad guys, they're the oppressors. And the reality of it is even when you look at these cases, when you look at, the incidents that the left or Black Lives Matter, what they're complaining about, you'll find most of the time there's exigent circumstances that um, aren't being widely reported. That when most people hear, it shifts how they view the issue. When you have hardcore criminals out there who have criminal records as thick as a phone book, okay, most people are not going to give that person the benefit of the doubt. Look, we're all in agreement that the police should not be shooting people without justification. Nobody disagrees with that. And any system that is filled with human beings is not going to be perfect because there are no perfect human beings. So there will be flaws in that system no matter what, always. So there's always going to be bad things and tragedies that happen. You're never going to get away from that. But there's no conspiracy, there's no, you know, plan out there for police officers to kill unarmed black people. There's just not. Part of the problem here is that young black males seem to have many more interactions with police officers than most other groups. In fact, probably any other group of people. And when they do, their offenses are more serious, more violent. They have longer criminal records. They have more acts of violence in their past. They're more likely to be armed and to actually be willing to use that weapon. Now, I hear you. I know there's a lot of problems in the inner cities. I know that poverty has decimated the black community. It's not the whole story, but it definitely has an impact. So, yes, I'm all for taking steps to try to help young black males do something more productive with their life than do drive-by shootings and robbing convenience stores. And you can debate what type of action is needed, what's going to help. We can have a healthy discussion on that, but we're not there yet. And a lot of these inner cities are not playgrounds. They are not, very nice places. And these inner cities are where they need police the most. A lot of these places would be practical war zones were it not for the police to maintain law and order.
Can we look into the issue of clear police violence in this country? And it's spitting in their face to do this policy and to do it in this way. And the second thing that drives me crazy, real quick, is the assumption not just by the owners but by the press that the overwhelming majority of the fans don't like the players taking a knee. That's actually not true. In fact, there's polling to show that 58% of Americans think that it is freedom of speech and should be supported.
Not in the workplace.
Yeah,
a lot of veterans who fought for that right.
That's right.
The original policy, they reached out to a Green Beret, and he said taking a knee is a sign of respect in certain military situations.
Colin Kaepernick sat at first and then consulted the Green Beret who told him to kneel.
No, they agreed.
Yeah, and so Americans actually don't mind it, but they assume since some angry right-wing white men don't like it, that they speak for all of us.
So they kind of hit the nail on the head there without even realizing it when the guy, said not in the workplace, which is 100% right. Look, nobody's telling these players what they can and can't do in their off-the-field life, in their personal life. I'm not, and I think most Americans are not permitted to do political speech in the workplace, where you're trying to.
They do not speak for all of us. And so when they say we are going to punish you if you do freedom of speech, first of all, it exposes the right-wing hypocrisy. They have never, ever believed in freedom of speech. All they've ever believed in is their speech and shutting you up. And second of all, it is a slap across the face to the majority of Americans and football fans who think that yes, whether you're white or black or whatever color you are, you as an American have every right to speak out for your political opinions and social policy issues. And in fact, that's exactly what our troops fought for.
Wrong.
Our troops did not fight so that a bunch of spoiled millionaires could get to, show their disdain for America, and pump that into the living room of NFL fans. That's not why they fought. And again, nobody's stopping them from doing anything when they're not working. If they want to go to all kinds of Black Lives Matter rallies and that's their thing, they have that right. I'm not going to stop them. And if I want to know how Colin Kaepernick, what he thinks about certain issues, then I'll go and ask him, okay? But otherwise, I don't care. Now, Shank, this is a complicated concept, so listen carefully. In the political arena, in the specter of politics, one person is one vote, okay? So one person who advocates for an issue is exactly the same, cancels out someone on the opposite side. No one vote is more valuable than another. When you step out of the political sphere, that doesn't hold true at all. Do you remember, it must have been about 2010, when there was the controversy around the retirement of Jay Leno and the transition to Conan O'Brien being the host of Late Night? And, not long after Conan got the gig, the network started rearranging time slots and trying to do other things to boost ratings. And eventually they had to give up and put Jay Leno back in the night show spot. And there was a lot of outrage about that, a lot of people upset because, they felt like it was Conan's time, that Leno, he retired, he should just stay retired and let Conan take over. And were Conan's ratings a little bit less than what Jay Leno was when he ran the show? Yeah, they were less, but you know, the raw ratings were not night and day different. So the problem was who was watching, not just the raw data. So Conan's ratings in that middle age male group were terrible. And these are the people the advertisers were trying to reach. You know, BMW is not going to spend millions of dollars advertising their cars to 16, 17, 18-year-olds. That makes no sense for them because the vast majority of people in that group do not have enough purchasing power to really affect, BMW sales. Who do they want to reach? People a little older, more established, have more purchasing power. That's who they want to talk to. So the NFL does not want to piss off, men in that, say, 30 to 49 group, that middle age group right there, because they are prime consumers of NFL merchandise, NFL tickets, things like that. And when they tune into the NFL on TV, the advertisers are willing to spend money to reach these people because they have, more disposable income to actually spend on the products that advertisers want to sell. So look at it this way. In terms of football, there's two groups of people. You're either a football fan or you're not. Either you like football, you like to watch it, or you don't care about football. Two basic groups. So if you're the NFL, like any business, what are you trying to do? Well, you want to keep all the people who are already fans, you want to keep them in that side, and then you want to try to make inroads with the other group of people, the non-football fans. You want to try and make some of them fans. You want to convert some of them over. Does this and anthem fiasco have the potential to make the NFL lose fans, make people who were currently fans, make them non-fans, move actually the other side where they don't follow football, they don't care about football? Yes, this does have the ability to cause that. Now, for the non-football fans, the people who don't follow football, don't care about football, um, I doubt somebody's going to say, well, I don't really care about football, but, I like that the NFL is being all, liberal and tolerant and, I like that. So now I'm going to start watching football and buying NFL products and such. I don't really think that's going to happen. So from the NFL perspective, they have nothing really to gain by allowing these antics, and they do stand to lose. Okay.
Yeah, and just the ridiculous reason that they gave, which is the paperwork was due. Our paperwork was due. We had a deadline. The Dolphins, when it got leaked, and then to cover themselves, they're saying, "Oh yeah. The paperwork was due at 4:00 p.m. on this day before the rookies took the field. So sorry, we'll work out the fine details later. But in the meantime, trust us that we won't go too far." Even though they have it on they wanted to initially have it on the books, so there was a 4-game suspension for this.
I like that, Jake, that you brought up why the players are protesting, because we have to keep reminding people of that, because the more we get to this part of it, now we're talking about punishments from their bosses, and people are forgetting, or just they're trying to make us forget what the original reason for this is, because it's ridiculous to be against what they're protesting for.
It's not just.
Okay, again, so what they're protesting is not based on reality, and two, they don't have a right to do that at work.
Colin Kaepernick, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in 2016, somewhere around the 15th or 16th best quarterback in the league.
Still no job.
Doesn't have a job.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick was a mediocre quarterback. He was, probably one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the league. And I don't see what people are getting at. Colin Kaepernick chose to make himself a political figure. That's what he chose to do. He chose to be a divisive person. And yeah, a lot of teams that may be borderline, you know, but they decide, well, we don't want to deal with the drama, with the, other things that are associated with bringing Colin Kaepernick in. It's not worth the hassle. He's not that great of a quarterback anyway. But I don't know what you're getting at. Are you saying that, um, okay, you have the right to free speech, and then um, nobody can hold it against you what you say. You can be as divisive and vitriolic as you like, and nobody can hold it against you. That's just not how reality works.
Doesn't have a job. Eric Reid rates out in some ways as the 5th best safety in the league last year, and he's like 27 years old. He's in the prime of his career. But he kneeled every game with Kaepernick, and he kneeled every game last year. Doesn't have a job. That's outrageous.
And illegal and obvious collusion, and they are suing them, and they should get so much money that they could own an NFL team.
And so there's a
political beliefs and activism is not something that employment law, regards as illegal. Does somebody have the right to be in the KKK? Sure. That's freedom, that's political expression. The vast majority of people disagree with their sentiments, but you still have the right to, believe them if that's what you believe. Now, is a prospective employer able to look at that and say, well, I don't know if we really want to bring this guy on? We have African American customers, and the chances are this guy's not going to treat them very well, and they're not going to want him here anyway. I think a lot of people would be upset if they knew the barista that gives them their cup of coffee is, when he's outside of work, he's donning KKK gear and harassing black people. I don't think too many people would appreciate that. So yeah, your political views and beliefs that you openly advocate for, are part of your life. It's part of your record. It's something everybody gets to look at because you put it out there.